We'd love to have you go ahead and mute yourself so that we don't get background noise. And obviously, if you can do your video, that's fantastic. That way we get a chance to see everybody's smiling face. So with this, what we would like to do is I would like to remind you that we'll be using the chat box for questions, and you can put them in there throughout the presentation, and we will make a bunch of time at the end to answer those questions and anything else that may arise as we go through the presentation today. So with that, I have the pleasure of introducing one of our co-chairs of our recruitment committee this morning. This is Tom Singleton, and he's with Sandy Spring Insurance. And so with that, Tom, would you please join us?
Thank you, Stacy. As Stacy said, my name is Tom Singleton. I'm with Sandy Spring Insurance, and I am one of the two co-chairs of the Selection Recruitment Committee. I'd like to thank the rest of the committee, as well as my co-chair, Chris Rismandel, for all your efforts in putting together this candidate pool for the class of 2021. If you're new to Leadership Howard County, I just want to give you a quick summary of all of the programs under the Leadership Howard County umbrella. We have many programs and many opportunities depending upon where you are in your career. Obviously, our signature is the Leadership Premier Program, of which you are a candidate for. Then we also have a Leadership Essentials, working in collaboration with Loyola University of Maryland for younger professionals, more just in the start of their career. And then we have our Leadership U program for high school juniors. At this time, we'd like to show you a video from the June 16th Premier 2020 graduation class to share some what our participants will get out of the program. So at this point, we'd like to start the video. Thank you.
I didn't know what to expect, but the expectations was far beyond anything I could ever imagine.
This is the absolute best thing that I've done.
I felt like I had a steady grasp of the community. I felt like I had a pretty good network. And so I just wanted to add to that. And what I found was that I knew nothing.
I got more than I bargained for.
I was schooled.
One of the things that really piqued my interest, and I was so happy that I was able to be part of it, when we went to our retreat.
We had authentic conversations through the night as we're just outside relaxing. And that was sort of the aha that, like, oh my gosh, this really is an amazing program. And I really am getting to meet people that I would not otherwise have interacted with in personal or professional life.
Leadership blows me away in how many volunteers are engaged in each session day.
The biggest aha moment that struck me was the amount of need that comes from Columbia. And I was surprised to find out that my zip code was one of the top 3 zip codes calling into the United Way. I think that people sometimes don't realize the amount of need there is in Howard County, or even in Columbia especially.
Seriously thinking about this and saying, wow, so all the things, they are really very powerful sessions that even for the subject I'm more familiar with, to see things from a different perspective.
And the learning opportunities is the thing that is so phenomenal. I mean, you get to go to so many of the different facilities.
Going to the detention center, or going to the recycling plant, or the bellows of the mall. I just didn't know what I didn't know about those places.
I cannot think of anything that I do in the county that I cannot draw from an experience that I've had with Leadership Howard County.
So I'm with the Homewood SIP project, and we're really working on providing guidance and structure for them to build an advisory board. Even though it was such an organic process, we had the right people serving on the team. We had somebody with a legal background. We had a lot of people with connections to work, and especially the field that the homeless students were interested in.
We are really helping people solving a challenge that they otherwise will face great difficulty addressing by themselves, given their level of expertise and resources.
One of the things that I most value about a community organizing perspective is frequently it's not the what that you're going after as much as the who you're going with.
And it was just such a diverse in every way class.
This class is inquisitive, they're passionate, they're resourceful,
energetic, motivated, outgoing, smart.
Everyone in class is easy to talk to, from the chief of police to me. Everyone was there and were their authentic selves.
Our conversations never stopped. So I know Stacy and Laura tried hardest, but we always went over time. And even during break, our conversations continued.
I call my class the most epic class ever because we've had a lot go on with this pandemic, and our class is still focused on how do we keep learning about Howard County, how do we apply what we've already learned to moving forward.
This is an excellent group of people with big hearts to work with, and it's really a pleasure and fun experience, a rewarding experience to be part of this group.
Even more so, I've noticed since we've gone into actual pandemic mode of COVID-19, they haven't stopped. The volunteering, putting themselves out there and helping the community as a whole has just been amplified.
We're all entering a public period in which our volunteering and our advocacy is going to be more important than ever because we're going to have more needs as a community than ever. And so I really value that I'm going in with more facts as well as more relationships.
All right, so that should have given you just a quick look into what it was like for the class that is most recently graduated. We do have two folks that you'll get to hear from in a couple of minutes, but I would like to share a couple of basic pieces of information that we want everyone who's considering applying for the program or has applied. We just want to make sure that we've got a couple of pieces of information to go over. And so the time commitment. So we do have our monthly session dates, and those are, typical, and this year is going to be a little special and a little different because it's going to be a mix of virtual meetings and in person as we can. We will be working hard to have us be able to gather safely within all the protocols required by the state, local, and federal government. But we also know that there are some of our programming that we absolutely cannot do, together because of some of the places that we might have been meeting are places that are much higher risk right now, i.e. the hospital, a senior center, or a nursing home type of facility. So those will definitely be done virtually along with other spaces, other activities that make sense, or if we have a speaker who's uncomfortable with the idea of gathering and joining with us. You will also still have an opportunity to work on a community impact project. This will be, we will be doing recruitment for that into the fall with the hopes of finding a number of organizations that are interested in having a group of committed members of our class, work in a small group to work on to help them solve a strategic issue in their organization. And that will be something that you'll be able to do, virtually or in person, depending upon, how you all want to set up your work and how your host organization, how comfortable they are with in-person versus virtual meetings. Then of course there are learning opportunities, which you heard mentioned a couple of those in this video. And those are where we send you out either individually or in small groups out into the community. Some of those may likely be virtual this year, and others we will definitely be able to get you out and to to visit them, to have the experience of learning about those different organizations and what they're doing and get some of the behind the scenes work. So the other thing we want to talk about is the application process. So we would like to have all applications in by the 15th of July. We're doing one final round of interviews at the end of this month. And then our goal is to have the selection notification by mid-August. With the application, you need to make sure you have at least one reference, if not two. And when you complete the reference information on the application, if you would then also send a note to your reference, they get an automatic generated note from us. Often those go into spam, or because it's not someone they know, they don't open it. So it really helps if you send a note with the link that says, here's the application link if you wouldn't mind getting this completed. That way our selection committee can also read the references in a timely manner. There's also, if you were asking for financial aid, there is a financial aid form on the website in the same area where the application and the reference forms are, and that should be completed at the same time so that we have all that information together within your packet. Let's see what else we need to talk about. So the selection process, is you will, in addition to having our selection committee review your written application, we will be scheduling, if you haven't already had one, a 25-30 minute interview time with you. And at that, it's a chance to just get to know a little bit more about you and learn, and gives our selection committee an opportunity to ask some questions that they may have noted from your application they wanted to learn more about. And it also gives you a chance to ask us any questions that you may have. And so we're looking for candidates that show this established leadership experience in the community and work as a volunteer and a community leader prior to coming through our program in some manner or form. That is very broadly defined, but we do want to make sure that you have the horsepower to actually, to get involved and to, and you've demonstrated it somehow, some way prior to your applying to go through our program. And so the last thing I want to do is our next slide, which will highlight what we believe to be the proposed timeline for this upcoming year. This is what we're working on, which is the November through June schedule that is listed as one of the scenario options on our website. We're believing that by giving us a little bit of extra time to kick off instead of starting in September, we should have better handle on our ability and a better coordination for our ability to hold both the virtual and the in-person meetings as safely and as effectively as possible. And the retreat is a big question that most people have. We will be meeting. We plan to meet in person for those in a large space where we can be safely socially distanced. The overnight component of it is up in the air. If we were to do the overnight, that part would not be mandatory. You would be able to go home and that would be optional, but we're not sure about that. We hope to have that nailed down by August about how we're going to handle that. So you'll see the rest of those dates. This schedule is one of the 3 that is listed on the website. So these dates are available for you, and we will be getting those out to those selected as soon as we notify you all about acceptance into the program. So with that, what I would like to do is welcome and introduce our other recruitment committee co-chair, and that is Chris Rismandel. And he is the owner of Epic, and he will be sharing a couple comments with you. So Chris?
Absolutely. So thank you all for attending. It's Leadership Howard County has been a great program that we've been involved with since 2017, and now I've been working with the recruitment committee and process with Tom as well, and it's been a great experience. I think, and that's why I've stayed involved. I think that's the big thing that you learn is that it's not just it's not what you get. Not only just what you get out of the program, it's also what you put into it, and you get tenfold back. So it's a great opportunity to stay connected to everyone within your class, learning other people from other classes. I think that's a lot of it as well too. I think Tom and I have built up a relationship just interacting with different things here with Leadership Howard County as well as professionally and so forth. So it's a great way to meet and also just reconnect and get more touch points as you build your reference to the committee. I know Kim and I, this is the first time I think I've seen Kim at a Leadership Howard County event, but I think I've seen Kim a couple other times. So it's a great way just to kind of say, okay, here's just another touch point with another person in the community that you can, work with in a professional format, in a social format. If you're into, if you were on the call earlier, you know more about horse riding than I really wanted to know as opposed to in the beginning of today. But it's a great overall program across the board. So we look forward to everyone applying. So with that, I'll officially introduce Kim Waiters. Since 2013, Kim has led the GovRum woman-owned business, small business supporting government contractors in IT and construction spaces. She and her husband, Chad, are the owners of Renaza Wine and Tapas Bistro in Fulton, Maryland. And they call Columbia their home, where Kim claims that she lives there with the two most adorable cats ever. So Kim, I don't know if you would like to say a little bit about the program and give everyone your experience based on your recent graduation.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry for monopolizing the conversation ever. I'm so glad to see so many people interested in the program. And I will tell you, you may be a little bit concerned about there being session days that are online versus in person, but having done both, I can tell you that the richness is the same of both formats. It's absolutely amazing. The first couple of weeks, first two, you're a little bit kind of what's going on, what's my project gonna be, but just give yourself over to the process. That's the advice that I was given. That's the advice I'll give you. And give yourself over to the process and you will just be absolutely amazed.
Excellent. So thanks, Kim. And then next I'll introduce Pete Basco. And Pete is a senior project manager at the Whiting Turner Contracting Company since 2003. He serves on the board of directors at the B&O Railroad Museum and is actively involved with Habitat for Humanity of Chesapeake. On a personal note, he has been involved with Autism Speaks since 2014 and is actively coaching his kids' 3 soccer teams for the last 5 years. So Pete, would you like to tell us a little bit about the program?
Sure. And full disclosure, unfortunately, they had to cancel soccer this year. So we're hoping to get it back in the next couple of months. We're very, very much looking forward to that. Welcome, everybody. Again, like what Kim said, it's awesome to see everybody on here. I think that there's a lot to be said for the pivot that the leadership group had to perform in light of this COVID. A lot of times, or you may think that after it happened, folks would shut down or say, sorry, we just have to cancel that session day, and they certainly did not. And it was very interactive, and really I applaud the leadership group for what they did. Program overall, I honestly can't say enough good things about it. I did not really know what I was walking into. I had my thoughts and my ideas, but I really think the relationships that you gain from the program are what trump everything for me, and the relationships I'm going to have moving forward. And then also the opportunity to see so many things in the community and learn so much about the community. It's just, it was really an amazing thing for me and really eye-opening. And I wouldn't do anything different. And it's a great program.
Pete, can you share a little bit about your SIP project, and then we're going to go back and Kim and have you share a little bit about your SIP project, okay?
Well, it works out well because we're on the same SIP team.
Well, there, you can give your viewpoints.
So this was interesting. Our SIP program, which stands for Community Impact Project, was to develop or come up with some ideas for enhancing recruitment of the CASA program in Howard County, which is through Voices for Children. And I'll tell you what, if somebody would have said that to me about 6 months ago, I would have said, I don't know what a CASA is, except it means house in Espanol. So it's a court-appointed advocate for children. And what it is that when children are going through the system, there's a lot of times there's animosity, or there needs to be somebody looking out for just the child's best interest. And that's what these volunteers do. And I'll tell you, I learned a lot about it, and it's a great program. Kim and I were on the same SIP team along with 5 other folks. And we work close together, talking, lots of meetings. We met with the folks at Voices for Children, seeing their passion in a nonprofit, seeing the challenges that nonprofits have. You know, for-profit companies, it's just a different situation. When you're a nonprofit, it is very challenging. So it was really eye-opening. We developed this recruitment plan. Kim did an awesome job putting the final touches on it, and they were just so delighted with what we provided them. And it felt so great to give our time to create this thing for Voice for Children, an organization I had no idea about. until we started this SIP program. So Kim, if you want to say everything I just didn't.
You know, you really said it, you really encapsulated it. And I would say the most interesting part about the SIP project is you don't really know how you're going to get assigned, and I'm not going to spoil it, but when I was assigned to Voices for Children, I thought to myself, well, I don't really know anything about children. I don't have a background in social work, but everybody can bring something to helping a nonprofit. And this really helped me figure out what I'm best at with supporting nonprofits and community organizations. And that's on the background, on the back end, on the consulting. So I'm not one out there actually doing it, but if you need a plan, if you need business operations, that's really where I shine. So I would tell everyone, you're going to get your project. Do not be dismayed, because you will find that you do have the skill set that's going to help that project. And it was a great opportunity, and I loved it so much. And actually, I was able to take what I learned and apply that to AOK mentoring, where I've stepped up to the advisory board, sort of using the things that I learned working in my SIP project. So, you know, even if you don't stay with your SIP project, it's definitely going to help you moving forward.
Thanks,
It also
Kim.
creates, I'm sorry, Stacey, but also it brought, like, Kim was in my class with me and one of 49 people, and we would have interacted, but we interacted much more because, and I think it was good. Most of it. We really, you know, we just connected more because you're on this group of 6 or 7, and you're like a little clan that has to come up with this and this produce this deliverable. So it enhances that relationship. I mean, I know that's, you know, I'm glad that Kim and I are going to work together on this class rep now. It's a great thing.
Awesome. So Kim, what I started to ask is, could you share something about a learning opportunity, one of them that, you know, was impactful for you?
I would say the most impactful learning opportunity for me, it had to be United Way. You hear about United Way campaign, and I didn't know how much they did. I didn't realize just how large the opportunity was, and you may have heard me talking in the video. Listening to the United Way, which basically sort of takes calls in, they take communications in, and they say, well, here's someone in your area who can help you with this particular problem. You know, maybe you have a problem with rent or with food or, you know, some other, but they sort of say, okay, here's a group that can help you. Let me connect you with them. So there's sort of a clearinghouse. That was most impactful because they actually gave us a breakdown of where people were calling from. And as I mentioned, I didn't realize that my zip code right here in Columbia, 21044, was one of the top areas for calling. You know, we have a lot of schools, we've got seniors buildings, you know, we just have life here. But that was probably most impactful for me, was just seeing the sheer size of that operation, how well it worked, and even getting a chance to listen to the calls and hear people talk about some of the issues they had with food pantries. You know, one person said, well, you kind of get food that doesn't go together. You know, they've got pancake mix, but no syrup, or they've just got random things that nobody wants to eat. So that was the most impactful for me.
Thank you. And Pete, can you share a learning opportunity that, you know, really impacted you?
I want to do 2 very quickly. First one, well, I mean, they were all just so impactful, but I think shock trauma really jumps out at me to see how shock trauma is, how it's laid out. I mean, you to the folks who are thinking about this, I mean, you walk through the shock trauma halls. I mean, you see these nurses. We spent time talking with the nurses. We went to the roof to see where the helicopter lands and where how learning about how fast the state helicopters can get from Ocean City to Baltimore, and that I think there's 5 or 6 state police helicopters that are used to evac people and bring them to shock trauma. That was just amazing to see that all happen. And then the second one was just the medical examiner's office, because it's just was very, very interesting. And the gentleman that gave us a tour was just fantastic. And then to see some of those things, it would never have known or seen that if not for this. So those were the 2 most impactful, but they were all just, and if you do this program, it is what you make it to be for those, and trying to sign up for as many of those as you can, because they are just amazing opportunities to see things.
Thank you both very much.
You're welcome.
If we can, we'd love to open it up for questions from you all about anything about the session days, about the virtual experience, about the, the impact projects, about the learning opportunities. I saw that Mike had put a question in the chat box already about the class cycle for the SIPs. When does that all happen? And for those of you who hadn't looked in the chat box, the answer is our plan is to have the project selection occur at the retreat, which will be in December, and is what our goal is at this moment in time. And so you would have from that point through May to complete the project with your project team. And the process to select is not necessarily being assigned as much as learning about them. We encourage you to rank order the top couple based on the ones that you're most interested in and that you're not currently actively involved with that topic area. So if you were really involved with education and we had another project that was like what, there was one this past year that was helping with the Homewood School, we would discourage you from doing that because you're already engaged in that space and you already know about it. But we would encourage you to possibly consider one of the environmental projects or one of the projects that was helping out, seniors or youth in a different way. Something that is, that will help expand your understanding and knowledge in the community, and also let you maybe work on some skill sets of your own that don't get used regularly in your normal day-to-day life. So are there any questions at all besides that one about the SIP project that we can possibly answer for you all today? Okay, so the question popped up is the tours occur on scheduled meeting dates. And the answer is we have a little bit of both. We have those learning opportunities are scheduled outside of session days and you get to choose which ones you do. You have an assortment of about 20 plus to choose from over the time frame of the program. And you have to do 3 of them and you get to pick the ones that will work with your schedule to do. In addition, during our program days, we also have opportunities for you to go out into the community. They're called community visits, and they are opportunities for you to visit organizations that are relevant to the topic of that day. So on our day on education, we may be visiting a school, maybe even a private school. We might be visiting a school that has the telemed so that you can learn how important that component is with schools. On a business day, we go out and visit a variety of businesses in our community that are anything from a farm, from our agriculture and tourism business to small high-tech businesses to manufacturing businesses. And so there's a wide variety. Kim and or Pete, do you want to talk about any of those, like during this session day visits that you were impactful to you?
Well, I will say I loved all the session day visits, and I was one person every month I said, I wish I could have gone to every single session visit. Like, they're just that good. My favorite was going to Clark's Ilioque Farm. I live by there, I've driven by there, we've gotten food from there, meats from there and vegetables from there for the restaurant. But actually going there, sitting with them, talking, they baked us cookies, and really talking about the institution, one, as a part of Howard County history, and then also as a viable business, because they've got the, they've got the food stands, they're selling meats, they're also selling to restaurants too. But it was just such a different type of visit that you got such a great view of it and you learn so much, and they're very gracious. Like I said, they baked cookies. We actually got a book about the history of the founder, which was very nice. Very wonderful visit. Like I said, they gave us cookies and samples. I also went to the dispensary. They did not give us samples, but still very interesting as well.
Yeah, to learn about the business of medical marijuana. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. Pete, do you have anything to share or add?
Yeah, that dispensary, that was just wild. I had no idea that existed, and there were several places that we went to that were really great. I think what I'd want to mention is it's really cool the way they do it is you get there, and for that time when you're going to go off to do this community visit, you're basically placed with 4 or 5 other people in your class. And it's like, hey, who's got the biggest car? I got an F-150, so I could fit us in there. So we all, and this happened, I think, no kidding, Stacey, I think it was the second day. And Brooke and Jean and Sonia, these people that I've never met, well, really never met. I mean, literally first day you met them, and they're piled in the back of my car and next to me, and we went and did these community visits together and just chatted. So I got to know them driving to these visits. It was just really, it's kind of like, how you doing? But the other one was, and forgive me, the restaurant, that old restaurant. We went to visit this old restaurant. I can't think of the name of it. But forgive me, but I can't think of the name of the restaurant. I went there to visit it. It's in the off of Route 1, and
Daniels.
What is it?
Daniels, the biker bar, Route 1. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but it was just it. Yeah, I think more than anything, it's you get to do these things in the community, and you're also put together with these people and getting to know those people, because that was just one of the coolest parts of this whole program. People that I would never have met otherwise.
And I will say, everybody was extremely gracious. You may have seen in one of the pictures I was using a walker. I was in a cast and a boot and a walker for it seemed like a couple of months, but everyone was gracious with giving me rides, picking me up from class. I mean, the visits are absolutely amazing, but that made me feel really warm inside that everyone was like, okay, Kim, I'll drive you. I'll come pick you up and make sure that you can get around.
I still think you should put that boot in the time capsule.
Yes.
So there's a couple questions. So one of them for Jody is, do the tours occur on the scheduled meeting dates? And the answer is there's that mix. There's those learning opportunities that are outside of it, and then there's the actual experiences that we have during the day. Anna asked about are the monthly meetings going to be face-to-face? And the answer is some will and some won't. And to tie into that, Bruce asked about if it's a virtual session, will it be entire day or part of it in person, part virtual? And the answer is yes, likely. We are still working and waiting to see how things fall out. We want to do as much in person as we can, but we will be doing some virtual, and there may be that part of the day is virtual, and then part of the day you may just be going in small groups and meeting out at the community organizations in person, unless there's one of those unless one of those places that we like to visit is one of those that has said that they're not comfortable having people in person. And then that one may just be a virtual community visit, which we've done many of, as we've finished up our program here, and they work quite well. So you don't have to worry that you're going to miss something from that, because we'll put you in a breakout. You'll be in a small group. Sometimes they literally tour you around with their, with a camera. Sometimes they have a PowerPoint they've put together, and they have clients or customers that are also a part of the visit. So you don't miss anything from that experience. And Candace asked about, can you go on all the visits? The learning opportunities, you can do as many as you can possibly fit in. You may have to quit your day job in order to do them all, but if that's what you want to do, we're happy to have you try to attend as many as possible. For the visits that go on during a session day, they are concurrent, and so you may only be able to do 2 of 5 options or something like that. And then we try to design the day so that you can share what you went and visited with people who went somewhere else, and you can compare and contrast and do those kinds of things so that you learn about other places that you may not have been able to actually visit. And then one selling point for staying involved in leadership after you've graduated is if you help plan a session day, you then get to often volunteer to be one of the folks that attends as one of the alumni that helps make sure everything goes smoothly and helps plan the day, and then they go on some of the visits themselves, so you get to do some more visits that way. So let's see so Angela asked, what is the commitment? What if you cannot make the meetings or the visits? Are the requirements to make so many meetings or visits? So you have to complete 3 learning opportunities. You have to be an active participant on your community impact project, and you must attend all of the session days that are the monthly meetings that were on that calendar. There are 16 hours of excused absences. And because we can't recreate or reproduce all of these days, and so we really need attendance as best as possible. So we had a little bit of flexibility with that as this year ended, as COVID hit, and there were people who had work demands on them based on having to deal with the crisis. So we had some flexibility with that. But our expectation is, if you're going to participate in this program, you make the commitment to be an active member of the project, complete at least 3 learning opportunities, and be there at all the session days as best as humanly possible. Anna asked, what activities do you have scheduled to make sure we build strong relationships with each other? Well, that's part of why we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to have you together, even if it's in lots of small groups. We have, our whole program is designed to build relationship, whether it's virtual or not. That is very doable. We have lots of tools in our toolbox to make that happen. We are actually, our high school program kicks off in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be doing a lot of that work with them, both virtual and in person. And it is, we have no question that the relationship building will still be a strong component of this, even if it's in small groups, and then we'll mix those small groups up a lot so that you'll have a chance to get to know other people. You build very strong relationships with the people that are on your project team, and of course, those that you do visits with too. See, Nicole brought up, oh yeah, she was just clarifying, we do try to give you your choice of community visits during the session day. So are there any other questions? Have we really covered everything for you all? And while we wait for that, Tom or Chris, do you have any last comments that you would like to share with the people considering the program this year?
Sure. I think, a couple of things that resonated when I was listening to Pete and Kim kind of say their story and figuring out, what their experiences were like. And for us, or for me, like when we did it in 2017, and that was like kind of the peak of the opioid crisis. So we had access to, we had some, I guess some of the police officers that were on the drug enforcement team were there. They were able to present to us. We had a breakout session with them. We actually got a tour of the mental health facility at Howard County General Hospital, and just to see how they were being overwhelmed with things, and getting the tours and hearing, the first responders dealing with those types of things. So I think it's just it's a great way to do that. And much like Pete mentioned that he's coaching soccer, I think I've coached, I have 3 kids, I've coached soccer, I own my own company, I'm constantly running around. And it was to make those, meetings were very easy, because it was kind of like a highlight of your month as well too, because it, was something different, and it was a great exposure. And I think that's also too with the SIP project, and going through that decision process. It was, those projects pick you just as much as you pick them. You kind of get, you get to choose what area you'd like to do. So I own an IT company. The last thing I wanted to do was be on a board that programs and I have to do IT work, right? So I ended up doing something with the Howard County watershed process, and and that was just a great experience as a whole. But it still allowed me to bring a lot of my skill sets, and there was an IT component to it and so forth. It was just a great overall experience across the board. So hopefully you'll see it, as I kind of tell these stories, it's not just one thing that, was, hey, this was a great opportunity. It was, hey, I learned something about the community. I learned something about myself. I learned something about, the people in my group. And I learned, how to be a better citizen within the county, and obviously get a lot of great exposure. So I think it's just a great overall program.
Thanks. Tom, anything to add? You got to unmute.
I would, whoop.
You're good. Oh, nope, you just turned it off.
Okay, sorry about that. Technology is not my top skill. I think Chris, Kim, and Pete pretty much summed it up. It's a great program. It definitely is totally kind of about the relationships. And then someone in the video made the point that I believe it was every session they kind of walked away with a aha, like, how did I not know that? And I felt that same thing after each and every class session. I have been in this Columbia, Howard County area for over 50 years. And each class I walked away with that same feeling, like, how did I not know that, whatever it was that, was the topic of the day. So hopefully you'll consider and join us for the class of 2021.
Thank you, Tom. So to wrap up, Nicole, if you can pop up our last slide that just summarizes just as a reminder of what we want to cover, which is the applications. We'd like to have, oops, there we go. Applications are due on the 15th. We'll be finishing up the interviews. We'll be doing those through the end of July. We will be notifying everybody by mid-August, and our anticipated kickoff dates as the 17th, and then the retreat will be in December. And there's a $75 fee for to apply, and then there's the tuition is $5,800. There is, as I mentioned earlier, we do have the opportunity to, you can complete one of the financial aid tuition assistance forms when you apply, and there is also an installment plan, which is often very helpful for small businesses or any business that wants to manage their cash flow, which allows you to break up the tuition payments into 4 so that it will be over the program 10 months so that you can spread out your payments in that way. So with this, we are done. We want to thank you all for joining us today. And again, if there's any questions, we're happy to answer them. You're welcome to send an email to me, and I'll make sure that if the question is something that someone else can answer, we will get you guys connected. We hope that if those of you who are still thinking about applying, this will help you consider doing that. And we look forward to meeting some of you who I know have put in your application. We'll be interviewing with you all shortly. And we hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. And thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you.